Hey everyone, it's Realistic here doing another tutorial for SoundOracle.net, and I'm going to be doing a short review on the brand new FabFilter Pro-Q3 that just dropped. So FabFilter's Pro-Q series is very renowned, it's very highly regarded, engineers everywhere love it. Pro-Q2 was a staple in just about every studio, and it just got better, and I wanted to go over a couple of the new features. So FabFilter kept a lot of the features already that we all love. This beautiful interface, the ability just to be able to just drag up and create as many bands as you want, to be able to highlight bands and be able to control them all together by being able to change their cue shape and their gain and everything, also being able to remove them all right away. It still has the ability to change your cue shape with the scroll of your mouse wheel right here, which is really nice, makes it for convenience. And it still has the optional piano roll. You can see what notes or what frequencies. We still have the ability to choose between left, right stereo or mid-side, which is really nice for mastering or being able to get some resonating frequencies out of some low end or something where a lot of the low end will come down the middle, or maybe get some stuff that's going on a little bit with the reverbs and stuff, and then you can just EQ the sides a little bit separately than the mids. So we still got that in there. Still has the EQ match, still allows you to choose between zero latency and linear phase. Linear phase if you're trying to master, zero latency if you're putting a Pro Q on a bunch of different channels at once. Still got the resizable windows, so if you want to have it like a smaller version, large, and you can hit full screen. Still has your ability to do double clicking for your filters, which is really nice because it doesn't take much effort to create filters. Still has the drag up top for your shelving. So those are all the features that we knew and that we love. So now let's talk about the features that are new. So the biggest one in here, and this is what I've always said personally myself, that Pro-Q was missing just one thing to make it perfect, and it was the ability to have a dynamic EQ. And so what dynamic EQ allows you to do is think about it as an EQ and a multi-band compressor in one. And it allows me to not only cut the frequency, but I can also compress the frequency down a little bit. So I got this kick drum loaded up. I'll show you that. And you see, I can still zero out frequencies like I could in the old version. So that's a little bit of a nasty frequency, and if I want to not only EQ it, I can enable the dynamic mode, and now I can also compress it. I can come down here and I can change the threshold. I can change the range at which the gain reduction begins. See, and you can hear it, it's subtle, but it does smooth out some of those resonating frequencies. You know, and I really like dynamic EQ for something like vocals. I have a vocal track that I loaded up right here. Even when I'm dead and gone, you'll be wanting me all night long. So it's really nice because especially with like female vocals, you get this little harsh resonating frequency, usually around 2 to 3K, and it's nice to be able to compress that down a little bit, and that way when you're EQing, you don't have to just completely use like an ice pick EQ to just get rid of it. You can compress it down a little bit. That way when it hits really hard, it pushes it down, but then times when that frequency isn't as harsh, then the EQ's not reacting quite as hard. So there's a little harshness there, and so we'll just duck down just a little bit. Even when I'm dead and gone, you'll be wanting me. And then something too where you can get rid of some of this low end little resonating frequency. Even you'll be wanting me all night long. Really hope you got it. So you see that it just smooths it out. And so that's something that's really nice about being able to have dynamic EQ. I was so happy when they made that. It made everything easier in my life. It freed up a channel on my master channel because I always use Pro-Q, but then I also use the dynamic EQ on my master channel. Now what I can do is I can just use Pro-Q on there and just free up a slot on my master channel, which is really nice. The thing that I wanted to go over is they have this external spectrum visualizer, which is it's really nice. It allows you to be able to match things a little bit easier when you're trying to EQ things. So for instance, I got this 808 track up here, and as you know, like 808s and kicks, they can kind of fight each other a little bit. So what's cool about this is I can come down here to my analyzer, and then I can choose the different spectrums of anything that has Pro-Q3 on there. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do any side chaining. It's just anything that already has Pro-Q3 on there, it's going to analyze it. And so now what you can do is you can click on what you want to add in there, and you'll see that we're going to add this kick drum. The frequencies of this kick drum is going to show up on the spectrum in red. So as you can see, we have some issues in this area that are fighting with each other, and now that we can see that, we can maybe duck things out a little bit. Because now we know where the kick has its fundamentals, and we also see that the bass has that the 808 has some fundamentals there as well. So now we have the ability to like cut that out, not have to worry about them clashing as much. What's cool about this is they added a collision analyzer on here too. So when we look at things that are in red, we can see what's fighting the frequencies of what we're currently on. So with the 808, we're seeing in these areas that it's fighting with the kick and it's fighting with the vocal a little bit there. So I think that really makes things a lot easier. Another thing that's really cool that they added was this tilt shelf right here, which we hadn't seen before, this flat tilt. So it's cool because then you can just do things to like really warm things up or really brighten things up. And then another really cool thing that they added to it was we've always had really nice filters in here, beautiful filters, but they've gone a step ahead and they've added this new filter in here, the brickwall. Check that out. I think that's really cool. There's a lot of things that you can just like cut out then. And you could hear, let's go to the kick drum. I think that might sound a little bit better on the kick drum. So yeah, they've added a really aggressive filter if you want in there, but of course we already have all our other classic filters in here for shaping and everything. Those are the basic new additions. They've also added things to where they've made it a little bit easier with mid-side EQ. Before on the old Pro-Q2, I'll pull that up real quick. If you wanted to do mid-side, you had to come down to channel mode and then decide if it was left or right or mid-side. So you couldn't do mid-side and also be able to just EQ the left or right separately on the same channel. You had to pull up 2 instances of Pro-Q to do that. But now they've taken that away, and now they got it to where you can just choose your stereo placement of anything with your mid or your side. But then you can also EQ the left and right separately. So I think that's just it's a small change, but it's really nice to be able to have that. We also have the ability to invert gain. So let's say there's a frequency that we're trying to scope out here. And we see that we're trying to get rid of that, but sometimes it can be a little hectic to be able to just pull it down like that, or to come down here and move the gain down. So what's cool about it is once you find it, you can just invert the gain and then just take it out right there. And then they've added ability to do full surround sound support up to like 7.1.2 with intelligent speaker selection. And then there's just other things that they improved, like you would see with any update, like the EQ match is a little bit better. The analyzing spectrum is just a little bit cleaner and runs a little bit faster. And what's really nice about this is, even though it has a lot of new features on here, it doesn't run up your CPU any more than FabFilter Pro-Q did. The only difference is if you do make things dynamic, it is going to use just a little bit more CPU. But in most cases, you'll find that this plugin is going to have the same amount of CPU impact as other EQ plugins, and in a lot of cases it's going to be a little bit less. So yeah, that's my review on FabFilter's Pro-Q3. I personally felt that this was a phenomenal upgrade. I've always been a fan of Pro-Q2. I felt like it was the best on the market, and I feel like the best EQ on the market just got better. I've always said that I felt the only thing it was missing was a dynamic EQ. They've now added that, plus some other features that I was really impressed by, and I also think that the upgrades is worth it. If you just buy it brand new with no upgrade, it's $179, but then the upgrades are either $90 if you only have a couple FabFilter plugins, or it's $62 if you have all the FabFilter plugins. So when I saw that in my email, FabFilter Pro-Q3 dynamic EQ upgrade $62, I was right on it. It was more than worth the upgrade, and I'm very impressed with this plugin. So I'm hoping that you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Hopefully there's some information that was useful. If you're getting a lot out of this but you want to see more, please feel free to comment below. Let us know what kind of tutorials that you want to see in the future, and Oracle and I can definitely make that happen. We're always trying to find the content that you want to see. If you're liking what you're hearing from me, you can find me everywhere on social media at Realistic Productions. You can find me at the web, realisticproductions.net. You can find my man SoundOracle everywhere at SoundOracle. And if you're looking for the best 808s, the best kicks, the best snares with the craziest loops and samples you can find on the internet right now, go to SoundOracle.net. Alright, till next time.
From SoundOracle.net.